You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level. Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn connects you with experts from all over the world to help you take charge of your career, your business, and your life. Rap along with us. Visit drjacalyn.com to learn how to become a guest or a sponsor. And now, the doctor is in.
Hello and welcome. We are so happy to have you with us today. Hopefully you are returning and have watched another one of our 18 weekly shows. We are just so grateful for our fans and for those of you who are help supporting our work. You are watching Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, Stories of Hope, Inspiration, and Overcoming Adversity. I'm your host, executive producer, director, and broadcast engineer. This show has a place in my heart like no other because it is the first one I started out with. It was a telephone connected to the radio station, and that's how it went. And then from there, we went on Zoom. This is all from August of last year, and now we're on StreamYard with 18 shows. And I really started this particular show because of the work I was doing and am doing with the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, running a support group and giving people a place where they could come and share their story. And it really took off. It ended up being booked out for 6 months at a time, and that's because I think people felt like they wanted to share what they had been through to give other people hope and inspiration. And that's the case today. My guest is April M. Woodard. She is an author, and she is here to share her story and also to inspire us. Welcome, April. It's nice to have you here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Where are you joining us from today?
I'm really close to Atlanta, Georgia, so we'll say the metro area.
Wonderful. Well, I loved reading on your website, part of your journey. You are an author, which I want to talk about your cliffhangers, but you're also an inspiration yourself, and you've had some challenges in your life, and I was wondering if you would just share some of that with us first.
Absolutely. So I was born in the 80s. I was a 90s kid, and so back then they didn't know much about autism or anything really. And so my parents didn't know I was autistic. I actually have Asperger's, which is in the same, they've just put it all together now. They don't really call it Asperger's anymore, but it's not as much as a severe case, I guess you could say, as being on the spectrum. And so my autism is, you can live with it a little easier, but there's a lot of things, especially for girls, that people don't notice that they're internal. And so the struggle was very emotional and internal. And so on the outside, I looked like just a shy, regular girl, but on the inside, there were a lot of things that were going on that no one really knew about. And so it wasn't until my sons were diagnosed in 2015 that I myself was diagnosed, and we found out that the autism kind of ran in the family, and that from then on, I just worked on helping them, and it actually helped me. And so we kind of just overcame our adversities with living with autism, and still trying to live every day with it.
Thank you for your transparency and sharing that. I want to take a step back. So when you had the diagnosis, how did you feel when you received that information?
I cried at first. I not only cried for my sons because I knew they were going to struggle quite a bit, especially in school, but I also cried because it was such a relief to know what had been going on all those years, and that I wasn't different because there was something wrong with me. I was just different because it's just the way I was made. It was just the way my brain works. And so, and it was great that there are a lot of actual tools and resources out there now that can help people that are on the spectrum. And I actually found quite a few people that were on the spectrum. So I realized that it's not as hard as long as you have a support group. And that's what really helped me, as my husband was very supportive with our boys and with me. And as long as you have a really good support group, I think you can do okay.
Thank you for sharing that. So how did you take the diagnosis and embracing it in your life to become an advocate to help other people?
I realized there was a lot of things that people were doing, such as just kind of saying, oh, this is just the way I am and you have to deal with the way I am, when I want to empower fellow Aspies, is what we call ourselves, to be more than just their label. And that's why I took on writing. It's a therapeutic outlet, and it really helps me express my emotions through characters, and even helps me reflect on what my characters are feeling and how I can kind of sort through those emotions that I might not even realize that I'm going through at different times. And so I want to help autistics really see that they have a lot to offer. It's just kind of hard for us to figure out what we're good at and how to use our abilities to really thrive in the world.
And when did you realize that you had this incredible talent as an author?
Oh, I've been writing since I was little. So I started out with poetry, and then my mom still has all my poems. She gave them to me not too long ago. I've just always loved stories. I love the way it made me feel, and I've always been a daydreamer. And so my son's he's always living in his imagination, and he loves stories as well. And so it just helps you relate in a way with characters, even though they're fictional. We watch movies all the time. Those characters, if you fall, for their story and fall for their journey and feel like you're on that journey with them, it helps you kind of, see things in a different perspective in your life. And that's why I think I was always just really loved stories, because it helped me kind of sort through everything that I was going through.
I found also there's definitely a lot of power in storytelling, and also it's very cathartic that if you can get your story out, which is why I love having people like you here to share your story. I'm very interested, the topics that you write on, who is the audience you're writing for?
Deep thinkers, I guess. They don't usually know they're deep thinkers until they get into the story. But my stories, my basic series touches on a lot of deep things, a lot of like soul searching. It also touches on just relationships in general, with friends or with family, even loss, dealing with, trying to look in yourself and see that you have strengths. My main character goes through a lot in the first book, and then in the second book even, and she's really figuring out that she can do more than what she thought, and that there was more of a purpose in her life for her than what she thought. And so that's kind of the message, I think, of my series, is that there's a purpose for people in their lives, and they just got to go and search and figure it out. And sometimes that takes a very long time. I'm still on my road and my journey, but I've kind of figured a little bit out here and there. And so that's all you can do, is figure out what you can do to share a light in the world.
Absolutely. How much, if any, of yourself is in the book, in the character?
There's a lot. I think every author puts pieces of themselves in their work. How can you not? So it's really a collaboration of just everything I've been through, and kind of putting each character, the different characters. My main character, there's a lot of me in there, but there's a lot of her that I wish I could be. So like when she starts getting brave or faces her fears, is things that I put in there. And so there's a lot of characters that I would like to be that are in the story. And then there's characters that show just human nature and normal human faults and flaws. And I like having those flawed characters, because everybody has their flaws. And I think it helps readers really resonate with the gray character, because, not everybody can be the hero or, the villain, but there's somebody always in between.
And I see you have one of your books behind you. I'd like to talk about that after we take a break. I was wondering if you could read from your book.
Sure.
That would be great. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with April M. Woodard. And she is an author, inspirational speaker, and somebody who is sharing her story, being very transparent and enlightening us about autism and how to come forward and not have to live in fear or silence. So thank you for doing that. We are going to take a look at a music video that I'm absolutely in love with. I've been playing this today on our shows. Two sisters from Cardiff, Victoria and Lavinia, and they are called the Debutantes. So if you go over to Instagram, you can find the Debutantes and you can follow them. So we're going to watch their music video called Paradise, and I'm going to take us off the screen so they can have the whole screen. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Hello and welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the music by the Debutantes. You can follow them on Instagram. You are watching Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, Stories of Hope, Inspiration, and Overcoming Adversity. And during the break, I just realized this is our 50th show since August. So that's kind of cool. So I'm glad I'm sharing it with you, April M. Woodard. And you are just amazing. You are an author, inspirational speaker, a writing coach, an advocate for autism. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So let's get into the work as an author. A lot goes into it, doesn't it?
It does. It takes planning. I was self-taught, so I didn't really, take any classes. And I started in 2015, 16, around the time that I was diagnosed. And so I kind of felt I needed something to work on. And one of the things about being autistic for some is that we hyper-focus, and that means that we can spend hours upon hours on something we're very interested in. And so that was one of my strengths. But one of my the things that I had a hard time with was the fact that I have ADHD, and so I'll get very distracted very easily. And so that was one of the things that I had a hard time with. So if someone would come and ask me a question while I was working, my mind would just be completely on something else. And so it was very hard to disconnect from what I was working on. But it's really helped me as like I said, with the therapeutic outlet to really take my energy of if I'm needing to get a lot of energy out, it helps me just sit down and kind of relax.
And when you're writing, are you writing to express yourself? Are you writing to accomplish a certain thing? Are you writing to try to leave the audience with something? I know you're known for being the cliffhanger queen, so can you share a little bit more about that?
I definitely love to leave my readers hanging. So when I write, there is part of me, like I said, in it, but a lot of it is also giving my reader something to think about. Like I said, a lot of the things and themes in it are very deep, especially with book 1 and 3, I think, are some very heart-wrenching things going on. And so I leave people on the edge with not knowing what's going to happen next, even with each chapter sometimes. And so with book 3, I really left everyone hanging, and I'm trying to get, I left someone in a very bad place, and they're all very upset. I'm trying to get the 4th book done, the 4th and final book done, so they won't be hanging. But there is a lot of me in it, and then there's a lot of people I've met along the way that remind me of these characters that I've invented. So it's just an all-around experience of throughout my life.
And April, we've interviewed a lot of authors here, but you're one of the few authors that has a series. So I'm interested, when you plan a series, do you actually have to have a strategy for the whole series, and then you have to divvy it up into different books? How does that work?
I think every author or writer's process is different, but for me personally, I had to basically outline all the books and know where I was going. To really pull through the end message that I wanted to. I had the beginning, middle, and end, and I thought it was only going to take 3 books to get it done, but it ended up taking 4 because I just couldn't fit everything into the 3rd book. And so I have to plan everything out.
So are you sure the 4th book will be the last one?
That'll be it. There might be a sister series after that, maybe the prequels, but that's it.
So can you hold up your first book for us? Is that the one you have? Okay, so tell us how you chose the title, and a beautiful imagery, by the way.
Thank you. I chose the title by, I had a thing for C.S. Lewis's, the Chronicles of Narnia. And I was like, well, I don't really want to do the Chronicles because it's already been done. Come to find out, there's a lot of titles that have already been done. And so I ended up just the Aeon or Eon, people pronounce it differently. It means time, basically, an era of time. And it kind of takes, this whole series starts with past lives and not exactly reincarnation, but incarnation. And so my characters are in the first book, and then everybody knows, I've told them, they all die. And so I bring them back into the future with their new lives and new names, but they're still the same people. And so it just kind of takes them on that journey of reconnecting and finding one another where they had known each other from before. And so it gets pretty dicey with the relationships, because we kind of do a repeat of the love triangle that was going on.
And I love the tagline, would you die to live again?
Yeah.
That's great. So in reading for us, what's the backstory before you start to read that specific area?
So in this particular part, my main character, Sophie, has just figured out that the world is basically ending, and the people that are in this, there's several characters, but one of the main characters that later meets her is they're doing this little battle right now, and there are two angels actually watching them. And so I'm just going to read a paragraph, and then we'll go from there. But it's basically a competition between two soldiers right now. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Yes. By a pillar behind the two warriors stood Michael. He crossed his arms, observing his men, while his aura emanated brightly from his brown shoulder-length hair. He drew a deep breath and closed his eyes in concentration. The air was thick with emotion, a haze of anticipation, but also a hint of envy. Michael's forehead wrinkled, finding the disturbance. If he could pinpoint it, he would know which of them was affected by the confusion. He tested the auras of the crowd before opening his eyes again, focusing on the one and only soul full of pride. So we're talking about a particular soldier who actually turns, because there's one king that everybody, worshipped and was, faithful to, and then somebody rebels, and so everybody's starting to follow him. And so one of the soldiers is rebelling and following this other false king that's trying to take over.
Very well written. I like the description. So shoulder length hair, I can picture that. So what made you select that particular paragraph out of everything you could have chosen?
I really like this character Caius because, like I said, I like the gray characters. I also like the villains. I can sympathize with them a little bit of, why they make these bad choices. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, villains are just so bad. But, people do things for a reason. And I like showing how these villains just progress into getting worse or making these bad decisions. And so I kind of like Caius.
I could tell the way you're reading it. That's beautiful. Thank you. So when we talk about a series of books, and we talked about the fact that you have to plan it out, how do you know, like when I just said to you that there's not going to be another one after the fourth book, how do you know, like, that's it? What do you say to yourself? I've got to just finish this project and I'm moving on to another one? Or you feel like the characters have been developed so much that there's not much more you can do with them?
The latter. Definitely, I've brought my characters through all they can get through, and I've brought them to their final destination in book 4, and so it's a happily ever after. We can't really get any better than that, and so but they're going to go through some hardship to get there, and so I just know it's done because there really is nowhere else to go with it, and I'm ready to be done. I mean, this has been years in the baking trying to finish this series, and I'm actually ready to be working on some other things. And so I've got 2 other projects on the back burner that I was working on a bit in between. It was a retelling of King Midas, and then another one that's a very secret project that's historical fiction, a sci-fi historical fiction.
Very interesting. So I won't ask any questions about that, but for people out there who are interested in writing a series, what advice would you give them?
Like I said, everybody has their different ways of doing things, but I definitely suggest outlining. If there's just any way that you can kind of say, that I want this to happen, this to happen, this to happen, and that way that they can kind of see the story as a whole and planned out. And they can get from point A to point D or C, whichever way they want to go. But not everybody can outline. And I'm a discovery writer, so I'll outline and then I'll veer off completely from my outline. But it does help if you're going to really take on something, because I've seen a lot of friends that are writers get into some really rough patches where they wrote something, and I've even done it, where you're like, oh, man, well, I can't write the next part because I've kind of put myself into this space right here where the character has to go this way, but I'd rather have them go that way. And so, yeah, it does help to really have an idea of the direction you're going.
And as a writing coach, you bring a lot of value to people. I think we both know people who started writing, and it's, it's still in raw form somewhere in a drawer in a computer, and they never finish it. But I know myself from just having published my first book, I did work with a coach, and it made a huge difference. What are your thoughts about people working with a coach?
I worked with a coach when I first started out. It just, sometimes you need a little hand holding at first. It boosts your confidence, one, and it helps you know you're going in the right direction when you're making those decisions about, your plot or your characters, or even just how to write things out in general. I had a really good writing coach on like point of view, and she would, because that was what I struggled with the most at first. And then it finally clicked one day of how to write deep point of view, which you do for like fantasy or any kind of fiction. You usually need to see through the character's eyes. And it does. It really helps you get going, and then you start learning as you go. But I mean, I'm sure you know that, like, from doing it, that after you have a coach, you kind of feel more confident of doing it on your own.
Absolutely. I feel more empowered. I'm actually working on the second and third book at the same time, and I'm still working with the coach, because it's almost like you have an accountability partner, because otherwise, like you just talked about other projects that you have, you could easily be distracted and just, I'm starting on this, now I'm working on that, and then nothing gets finished, right?
Absolutely. Like I said, my ADD, and sometimes, I just need somebody to be like, you should go write today. I'll be like, you know what? I really want to go clean my countertop, because I saw some specks on there. You need to go sit down and write. And so it really is, a lot of us procrastinate because we know what a task it can be to really sit down and put those words in. But I tell you what, once I start reading my manuscript and getting back into the characters or getting back into the story, then I'm there for like 4 hours. So,
do you think those characters will always be a part of you? Or do you think, like, if you think about an actor or a television star, and then they have to get into this character, but then they have another project, and it's like they have to leave that behind?
I think I'll be able to leave them behind. I've spent so many years with them that I think I'm ready to be like, okay, now you have your own story and your own lives to go live it. And I'll be ready to adopt new characters and, kind of have fun with them. And so that is fun. It's like we say book babies when we talk about our books, because it's like, going through the pregnancy and then the birth, and then you got to let them go off to college, and then you're like sad, but then you're like, oh, but there's like more life I have to live, so I got to go live it.
I love that. We're going to take one more break, and I'm actually going to play another music video because it's just inspiring as we go into the weekend. So now we're going to hear from an artist from the UK. Her name is ILO, ILO, and her record label is Licorice Dragon Records. Her song is Heroes in Disguise, and it's available over on iTunes. I am not a paid spokesperson. I just really love this song and the message. Let's take a look, and then we'll be right back.
Picture this, a life where you can leave your pain, a life where you can start again somehow. Picture this, a vision that can change a prayer, happy heart that's always there in the now. So don't be afraid of fear, you know, as long as we're still here, we can be anything larger than life, rise up from the ground. We can fall down over 10,000 times, then turn it all right back around. We never imagined how good life can be, but inside you and me we can see past these ghosts in the mirror. We're heroes in disguise, heroes in disguise. release, losing everything you got, never having had a lot, but holding on and on and on. Don't be afraid to dream, 'cause we are so much closer than it seems. We can be anything larger than life, rise up from the ground. We can fall down over 10,000 times, then turn it all right back around. We never imagined how good life can be, but inside you and me, we can see past these ghosts in the mirror. We can be anything larger than life, rise up from the ground. We can fall down over 10,000 times, then turn it all right back around. We never imagined how good life can be, but inside you and me, we can see past these ghosts in the mirror. Heroes in disguise. Heroes in disguise. Heroes in disguise. Heroes in disguise. Oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is. The most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Welcome back to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, Stories of Hope, Inspiration, Overcoming Adversity. Thank you to ILO, her manager, Tony Moore, and Licorice Dragon Records. My guest is April M. Woodard, and we have been discussing your work as an author, as a writing coach. Let's talk a little bit about you as a speaker, an inspirational speaker. What type of subjects do you like to speak on?
It's usually related to autism. And so inspiring, like I said, other autistics to just take it upon themselves to really be that shining light in the world. A lot of us like to hide, or we like to kind of stand in the background and kind of let others do the talking. Most of us deal with, like you can probably notice how I look off into the distance when I talk, eye coordination, or eye contact. And then we also deal with speech sometimes. My son has a lisp, and so I know that if he was to speak in public, that would probably, hinder him from speaking up. But it doesn't really matter what, if we're looking somewhere else, it matters the words that we say. And I really encourage people to just, like I said, talk about their story and help people be more aware of what it's like for them and their journey. And that way that more people can understand, because not everybody on the spectrum is the same. We all have our different journeys, and we all have different things that we deal with. And you've met one autistic, you've met one autistic, because we're all different and we're all unique.
Thank you for sharing that. When was the moment you realized you were not afraid to speak up and talk about it?
I've never really been afraid of talking about it. It has been a difficult topic, however, because just emotionally with my boys, as a mother. But other than that, I don't think I've ever really been afraid to talk.
So for companies that are planning their conventions, their conferences, they're looking for speakers. You would be a great speaker to hire to talk about what it's like to overcome adversity.
Yes, I'd be more than happy to chat with anybody about coming and speaking at their event.
Are you available to speak in person, or do you prefer to do it virtually?
I could do both. I actually prefer to speak in person just so I can actually see the crowd and see the faces. I think it's more personal.
Yes, and it's amazing because people are going to in-person events. There are conventions and conferences that are happening all over now.
They are. It's great.
It is great. So I know you've got a couple of projects. One's a secretive project, but what's next for you? What's next in the big picture of your dreams that you want to accomplish?
I'm just writing more books and talking to more people and just, like I said, helping others out.
And how do your children feel about you and the work that you're doing? I'm sure they're very proud of you.
Oh, they are. They tell everybody, oh, my mommy's an author.
Do you see any writing for them? Do they seem to have an interest in it?
Some of them seem like they might want to be, but we haven't really figured out. I know the youngest wants to be a veterinarian. The oldest said he wants to be an FBI agent, and my middle child that's more severe on the spectrum, he just really doesn't know yet. And so I'm just going to kind of cultivate whatever strengths he has, and we'll figure it out along the way. None of them want to be a writer, though.
Well, maybe whatever it is they'll do, maybe they'll want to share their story and get it out there because they have you to inspire them.
I hope so.
So, April, how can people purchase your books?
They can go to my website, or they can contact me via Instagram. But all the information is on my website, and the books are there.
Fantastic. And as we close out our 50th show, so happy that I'm here with you. Will always be a memory. I'm just going to spotlight you. And if you could just share, again, there's some people who just joined the program. So you don't have to be held back. You don't have to give up your dreams just because you have a diagnosis, whatever that diagnosis is. I have 3 autoimmune illnesses and I just keep going. So I'd love for you to just share with our audience, if you have a diagnosis or if you're not feeling your best, you can still be all you want to be. And in your words, what would you share with our audience?
I would. I actually have shingles as well. So we probably have something in common there with dealing with illnesses that are ongoing. But I would just tell people to, you can have your bad days, but on those good days to really put your everything into it and really make a difference. And then when you do have the bad days, to just let it be one of those rough days and just, be grateful for the good ones. But yeah, just to, take the chance. What's the worst that could happen if you took the chance to say something or to say how you feel or to help people out.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure meeting you and having you on the show. Again, for people who cannot see the banner because they are listening on the radio, the best way to get in touch with you?
Instagram is the best way to actually get in touch with me, or signing up for my newsletter, which should be on my website.
And the name of your website?
It's www.authoraprilmwoodard.com. And
your Instagram handle is?
It's April _M_Woodard, WOODARD.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I want to make sure people on the radio get to have a chance to contact you as well. So thank you for being here and sharing this special moment. And thank you for sharing your story. I really do appreciate you.
Oh, thank you so much.
All right. We'll see you again soon. You're welcome to come back on any of our shows. We'd love to hear what you're up to.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Bye. Thank you. Oh, she was delightful. And again, somebody strong and brave and just inspiring all of us by sharing her story. So thank you again, April, for doing that. that is a wrap for our week. And I have to say, since I started standing for all the shows, I think it was maybe a month ago, my feet were killing me. But now it doesn't even really bother me. It just goes to show you how something that seems daunting can actually be welcoming. Now I'm happy to stand all the time. So the announcements for our week are that we have our YouTube channel is USA Global TV. So if you would go there and subscribe, it would certainly mean a lot. You would get to have notice of our shows. We have 18 shows a week. We do have some new programming that's coming later in the summer. I'm not going to spoil it, but just to give you a little clue, one of the shows is going to be taking place on location in Scotland, and it involves food. Ooh. Also, my book, which has been out since May 22nd and hit the bestseller list on Amazon June the 4th, is available, and it is Behind the Green Screen, How to Succeed in the Live Broadcasting Business. And this book is really for anyone and everyone. I talk about the adversities that I've overcome in my life. I left corporate America March the 6th last year, 2020, right before the pandemic. I think it was 1 week before New Jersey was put in a lockdown. And so I had all these plans of what it was I was going to do. And lo and behold, in August, I start this broadcasting platform. And as I mentioned, we have 18 shows. We have 11 co-hosts from different parts of the world, and we are truly global. So you can do anything and everything you set out to do if you are in your lane. And so my book details some of my journey in corporate America, how and why I left. And I don't think anyone could guess what the reasons were. So if you read the book, you'll find out. And also how you can set up your own broadcast platform. Everything that I did, all the steps. And then after each chapter, there is a lesson that I share based on my experience. So if you're interested, that again is over on Amazon. And I think that's all the announcements I have for right now. I am going to go get changed and go hang out with my mother and relax. So I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And again, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. It does mean a lot. I see who's watching. I love the comments. I love the shares on social media, because it's not just me. It's everybody who comes to our show. We are doing these programs so people have a voice and can share their voice. Thank you to all the sponsors. I promise I'll start playing your ads again. I just was so in love with the music today that I got caught up in the music. So thank you again. We'll see you soon. Take care.